What's good, YouTube? I figured I'd change the intro up, make it more active. Also, my man said I need to start showing the merch we got. Father That Never Stops. If you know a good father or you feel like a good mother and that message resonates with you, the link's down below. So anyway, I had to get the angle right. This video is going to be about when a man loves a woman, or one sign that a man is in love with you or is falling in love with you. And that sign is a man accepts your emotional energy, the whole range of it, right? Too often I find that I'm talking to women who aren't allowed to be their full and complete selves with their partner. Not necessarily because they're nervous or their anxiety, their fear of him, or, those butterflies stop them, but because he rejects portions of their personality, portions of their energy on a very regular basis until they start to mute themselves, until they start to feel like they can only give him the positive, the pleasant, and the convenient portions of who they are or how they are at any given moment. When they're upset, they can't express it. When they're sad, they can't express it. When they have something deep to talk about, they can't express it. They feel they may be punished with distance or separation. This happens a lot of times to women. A lot of women have had a lot of their modes of expression rejected from a man until they only decide to share with him the things that he might like, the things that might make him feel better. When a man really loves you, he accepts all of your emotions. He might not necessarily know what to do with them sometimes. He may not know how to handle them every time, but he accepts all of your emotions. He doesn't punish you with distance when you are emotional. He doesn't shut down or run from the moment. When a man is in love with a woman, especially in new love, the first thing that you see is a man's acceptance of the full range of your emotions. Because emotions are energy. And sometimes men don't want to feel or engage in the emotions of women that they don't care about. That's too deep, too heavy an investment to make. So when a man loves you, he wants to know how you feel, even if it's bad and even if it's about him. He accepts accountability and responsibility for his effect on you. But he also wants to know how other things are affecting you. When you're having a bad day, he wants to be a part of making it better. If you're crying or afraid or happy or sad, all of those things are equally as important to him. It's not just the portions or the types of emotions that make him feel better. You're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed to have a bad attitude, right? As long as you're not abusive, right? You're allowed to be imperfect and be flawed and be not so fun sometimes. A lot of times, depending on what time of the month it is or what type of phase in life you're going through. Too often we hear the word pressure or stress when it pertains to dating and relationships. That's because most of the men who are using these words on a very regular basis aren't open to the emotions of the women that they encounter because they aren't willing to love and they have no love to give. When a man feels love, it's not stress, it's not pressure to be a partner to a woman who needs you in a particular moment. It's not stress, it's not pressure to hear her cries. It's not stress, it's not pressure to cheer her up. It's not stress, it's not pressure to support her when she feels like life is beating her down or any particular moment has, even if that moment came from you. It's not stress, it's not pressure to be around her when things are not fun or she's having a day that's not fun. It's not stress, it's not pressure to just give your presence and give your time. It's not stress, it's not pressure to be supportive. When a man loves you, he accepts the full range of your emotions, as long as you express things appropriately, right? No man of respect will stand for disrespect. All of the obvious. So we're not talking about a man who just lets you run roughshod over him if you're having a bad day. That's not what we're saying. Okay, that's never the assumption. I can't relate to those guys. But like I said, one of the first things that you feel when a man starts to love you is you start to feel the freedom to be everything you are, even the bad stuff. And most of the time when people don't feel free in relationships, it's because they haven't been given permission, whether non-verbally or otherwise, right, implied, to be their whole self, their whole imperfect self, to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. When a man loves you, he doesn't care. He wants it all. He knew more came with the package. He knew you were not just fun. He knew you were not just sexual. He knew you were not just funny. He knew you were not just a good cook. He knew you were not just smart. He knew you were not just wise. He knew you were not just nurturing. He knew you could be difficult. He knew you could be stubborn. He knew you could be frustrating at times, but he accepted it and he doesn't run from it and he doesn't punish you for being a whole human. I know a lot of people that create space and distance when inconvenient emotions are shown. because they want to compartmentalize themselves from that portion of that person to make that relationship more convenient. If you find a guy doing this to you, if you find a guy being more distant after you had a bad day, after you were not fun, after you were less joyful, after you were less entertaining, if you find yourself being met with resistance from a man who's seen another part of you because you had a bad day or you were having a moment, again, within appropriate limits, because some of y'all be wilding. If you just had a bad day, if you were unpleasant for a particular space of time to be around, and he still comes back the next day like he came back the day before, he's starting to really care about you. He may be starting to love you. And that's a prerequisite of love, acceptance of not just the healthy, not just the happy, not just the whole, but some of the fragments of us, some of the broken parts, some of the cracks, some of the fractures, whether they're permanent or just for a moment. We're allowed to be a whole person. A man who doesn't run from you or shy away from you or become a shell of who he was and what he was to you, if his presence doesn't dwindle and minimize itself when you aren't convenient, when you aren't happy-go-lucky or sexual, when he stands right there to bear the brunt of the force of whatever emotion that might be inconvenient for most people to deal with, you're becoming more important to him. You're more than a piece of ass to him. Most of these pickup artists and F-boys and alpha males and whoever else, most of these guys don't deal with a woman who's not absolutely fun, who's absolutely convenient, who's absolutely a joy to be around in every moment that they're there. They deal with women on a convenience-only basis. But relationships don't work like that. Dating doesn't work like that if you're dating with intention. Sometimes people are inconvenient. Sometimes relationships are inconvenient. Sometimes we have to make emotional space to allow someone to be imperfect. Sometimes we're imperfect ourselves. That transparency allowed is one of the biggest signs that a person is starting to care about you or falling in love with you. So just think about your relationships. Are you allowed to be upset? Are you allowed to be inconvenient? Are you allowed to have bad days and still see his face? Does he give you the same energy and the same effort and the same intention once you've shown those emotions? Or does it immediately become pressure? Does it immediately become stress? Is it immediately not fun anymore? And therefore he needs time. Adults understand that human beings have a range of emotions and a range of personality traits that might come out depending on whatever emotion is felt. So within reason, if you've been unpleasant, sad, happy, depressed, lowly, or whatever other emotion that a person might not necessarily want to be around or encounter of a person that they don't care about, but he's encountered that with you and he keeps coming back, you might have something worth trying, worth getting excited about, worth giving more energy to. Anyway, I hope that helps. Follow me at KFA24 on Instagram. Don't forget to get your Fatherhood Never Stops t-shirts or your Motherhood Never Stops t-shirts at the link below. Share my content if you think it's helpful. I'll get with y'all later.